Hey everybody, JR with JR's Cars here. We're going to be taking a look at my Pontiac Torrent today. It's a 2007. I've been noticing probably the last week or so that I'm getting a little musty smell on the inside of the car. After taking a look at it, we've had some pretty heavy rains here lately, and I had the windshield replaced probably about 2 months ago, so I was kind of thinking that maybe it had something to do with the windshield replacement. But I'm starting to get a little bit of water that I'm noticing now after lifting up the front mats, more so on the passenger side than the driver's side, but I'm definitely starting to get some water up in the front. So here we're going to take a look at it, and we'll see, common areas that we can find water leaks. So the first and most obvious to take a look at is the sunroof. In the sunroof, there's channels that will direct the water down. It'll pass through into the A-pillar here, and then it'll pass it outside of the car. Sometimes what happens is those will clog up, especially if the car's been sitting, or if you have your cars parked under trees a lot. You'll get debris that'll plug those up. The only issue with that I'm not seeing here is I'm not getting water inside the car, so I'm not seeing. If we open up here, so you would typically see some water up in your sunroof, your headliner area here for the sunroof. I'm not getting anything here. There's nothing that's wet. When I get a good rainstorm, you can actually hear the water channeling down, funneling all the way down, and filtering out. If you take a look, I don't know if you can really see this. Let's see if I can get you in there. See that tube right there? That's the actual drain tube. Right in the center over here. I don't know if you can see that. But that's the drain tube. So if you take a look in here, you can actually see where that drain is. See that little hole in the corner over here? That's where that drain is. So any of the water that comes in, and you could actually see it's a little bit wet in there, will drain down there and then drain to that outside tube, which will drain outside the car. I'm not sure if this is my issue. I really don't think it is. But we can easily test this out. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. Grab a bottle, whatever you want there, fill it up with a little bit of water. Just go right into the top over here. And we can start pouring it down this channel. I'm watching to see what it does. All right. I'm getting it in there, and it looks like it is draining out. Let's see in the bottom over here if we can see it coming out. See that? Draining right out without a problem. So that is definitely not our issue with getting water inside the car. When I had the windshield replaced in the car, they took the black plastic cowling off, which is this piece right here. Goes all the way across the car. And they took the two windshield wipers off too, so they could get easier access to the windshield. When they did this, I noticed this a couple weeks later, that the windshield wiper arms were not put on tight enough. So here I was driving to work one morning, and it was a torrential downpour. All of a sudden, windshield wiper on the passenger side was working perfectly fine. The driver's side started getting a little slow and was out of sync. And of course, what happened? The passenger side hit the driver's side, it stopped working, and here I was driving 65, 70 miles an hour up the highway with no functional driver's side windshield wiper. It was quite an interesting drive in that morning, but that goes to show you that you should always, always, always check work that's done to your car. Because if you never check it, you never know what's going to happen, and you'll end up with something just like I did. So what I have a feeling it is right behind this plastic piece of the cowling is the cabin air filter, and there's a little black plastic housing that holds the cabin air filter in there. Behind that, there's a gasket and the firewall. I have a feeling that either they removed that and broke the seal, and that's what's leaking, or maybe the seal itself was just starting to go bad. They might have nudged it and broke the seal. So we're going to take this all apart, and we'll see what's going on. To get the cowl off, these are the basic hand tools that you're going to need. It needs nothing more than that. It's very simple, very easy to take off. So first thing you want to do is you want to grab a flat blade screwdriver here. These little pop clips here, you just got to get underneath them and just pull them up enough to where you can get them with your pliers and pop them out, and that's how they come out. Very simple. You do have a few of those pop clips around. All right, so you have one here, there's one in the corner over here. If you just keep looking down the cowling, you'll see that there's more of them over here too. You can see one over here in the corner. All right. Then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to put the hood down a little bit. And they're more difficult ones. Like if you see in here, this one's going to be a little bit of a pain. There's two of them. There's one here and one on the other side too. It's a little hard to get the screwdriver underneath it, but just take your time and you should be able to pop that out without a problem. Now that all those pop clips are out, all you need is your 13mm ratchet. Get on to here, and you break those free. Oh, that was even still loose. You just take those nuts out. You do that on both wiper arms, and they'll just slide right off. Now that we have the wiper arms off, we're going to take that cowl off. It's pretty self-explanatory. It just pulls right off. As long as you have all those little pop clips out of it, it should just pull right out without a problem. Well, that didn't take long for me to figure out that I missed something in there. If you take a look in here, you see that that's a 10mm bolt. If you look, it's just a little rubber piece that goes around the hinge of the hood here. And if you take this bolt out, it's going to make removing this a lot easier. You can take this and pull it off of here and everything else, but it's just easier to take this out because then it'll all come out in one unit instead of having to put it all back together afterwards. One thing you're going to want to watch out for is when you take this right piece off of the cowling, underneath it is where all of the lines are. See these hard lines that are here that go to your windshield wiper, the sprayers. So you're going to want to watch out when you take that out. You could either just move it to the side, but I would remove it from here, remove this little clip. But to make it easier on you, what I would do is I would take this and I would just remove it from the body. Don't try to take this clip off of the plastic because especially if it's cold as it is today, it is hard plastic, so you might have a tendency of breaking this. And then you would just follow this down to this little rubber grommet here and just disconnect it from here so you can take the whole unit out of the way. We're back on the passenger side of the car over here now that this cowling is out of the way. And this is exactly what I was talking about before. This is your cabin air filter. This is the housing for the cabin air filter. And there's a hole behind this that goes into the heating and ventilation system on the inside of the car. Now, if you're getting water, what I have a feeling is the water's cascading down the windshield. It's coming through here. It's hitting this. And then it's flooding here. It's coming back behind this. And the water is passing through here and going inside the car because the seal on the back is probably broken. Like everything else, since they replaced the windshield, this whole housing is loose. It's not even finger tight. This bolt over here that I showed you before, this one was tight because I was looking at this yesterday to try and see if there's something that I could figure out. But the one that's on the driver's side over there, that one wasn't even finger tight. So honestly, this doesn't surprise me one bit. One other thing to point out is you should always check this channel in here too to see if there's any debris in it. Now, I've gone through this and cleaned it recently, but if you're one of those people that have to park your car underneath a tree, it's February now, but I mean, obviously we just got through fall and, with all the trees and everything that come down, I live in an area where there's a lot of pine trees and pine needles. So debris could end up getting lodged down in this channel here. And that right there is your drain. That, if you follow it out here, I don't know if you can really see that in there in the back, but that right there is where it drains out, and then it drains outside of the car underneath. So any water that's coming into this cowl area is going to drain out using that drain. If that's plugged up, that's going to definitely be a problem. You could just take something, ream it out, just make sure that you can clear that out, and then get any of the debris that's in here out of the way. All right, now that we have the air box out, we're going to visually inspect it just to make sure that there's no cracks or anything like that in there, which I did give it a quick once over here, and everything looks to be in pretty good shape. I'm not seeing any visual cracks. Everything looks like it's pretty good. One thing I do notice, and let me put this down here so I can show you, is you see this right in here. This all is where the water is cascading down. It's coming down from the windshield. It's coming down like this. It's going down the channel here, and it's going through and hitting the bottom and running off like this into that little cowl area where it would drain out of the car. You can see that here, and I have a feeling that it's definitely this seal, because if you look at the seal, you're probably not going to be able to see it on camera very well, but it's really porous. The seal itself is really porous, and if I start like messing around with it, it starts crumbling and flaking out. So I bet you that this is our problem right here, where we're getting water inside the car. So I think I'm gonna have to take a run over to Home Depot and get a new seal. All right, here's the weather stripping I ended up using. It's just the rubber foam, 3/4 inch wide, 7/16 inches thick, and you can find this at pretty much anywhere. I mean, I've seen it in Walmart, I got this at the Home Depot. It's nice and thick. It's going to give you a watertight seal, and you should be good to go. All right, so here's what the seal looks like after it's been all done. Obviously, there's going to be a spot where you're going to have to put the seal together. You're going to have to butt the two ends together. So what I ended up doing with this one is I oriented it the way that it sits in the car like this, and I put the seam at the top, because if you look on the inside of the car here, where it goes, this is where all the water is going to end up laying. So you want this to be a continuous seal all the way around. I can't even show you how far up it goes, but this is the windshield where the water would be coming down from. It's not going to get all the way up there. You can see how high my fingers are getting in there, and that's where that top seal, where the split would be. So I don't think we're going to have a problem getting that back in. All right, so now we got the assembly and the cabin air filter back in there, and everything is nice and tight. If I get my hand up underneath it, you can actually feel that the seal is doing something back there, where before I couldn't even feel the seal in there. So I don't think we're going to have any more problems with water coming in. So at this point, we'll put everything back together, and I'll get back to you in a minute. When putting the cowl back together on the driver's side, just take a look and see for your washer tube here. Make sure that it's actually clipped back into here, all the way here, and make sure that when you put this all back together, I would leave this loose, leave this disconnected until you actually have everything back together, and make sure that this goes back in here, or you're going to make one hell of a mess, because all that washer fluid, as soon as you squirt it, it's going to be coming right out of here. All right, all right, all right. Here she is back together, and hopefully all sealed up and nice, good. We're not going to have any more leaks. So now that this is all back together, just make sure, do yourself a favor, you want to tighten that bolt down, that 10 millimeter on the passenger and the driver's side. Make sure you have all your little pop clips in, and they're fully seated in there, so nothing's going to go loose. And most importantly, because it's always nice to see, make sure you tighten down your washer nuts, because if you don't tighten those guys down, you might just have what I had on the highway, and it is definitely not fun. I hope this video helped you guys out trying to find the typical water leaks that you would get. So if you like this kind of content, you're looking for a little bit more, give me a like, subscribe over here, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.